welcome back to another episode of Salmon's Pizzeria. We're back with the Championship Penitentiary plus a more important competition. Of course, I am your host, Callum Blythe. More than happy to be here this week, and I'm joined by Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
Aye, Callum, I wonder why you're delighted to be on this week. But I'm good to be on. Glad to be on. Talk about this weekend's action. I think, as we were talking off air, as of now, there's still Scottish Championship action going on tonight, which we'll probably going to probably mention that later on. But still a big week in the Championship, and I looking forward to discussing it.
And we are, of course, once again joined by Aiden. How are you, Aiden?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm here to beat the allegations that I'm only here when Morton win football games.
Just ending the allegations right there. But
Here I am.
it was definitely a big week of weekend action, and also there was no Friday games. We are going to start off on with our Saturday games with probably the biggest game of the weekend, where it was Ross County at home to Airdrie. This one being the bottom two, duking it out. Either side failing to win, surely confirming a bottom two finish. A draw, that's a bottom two finish for both of them. A lot riding on this one, and oh my, this was not a score I think many people were expecting. Um, just 5 minutes in, an effort from Jamie Bahonis at the edge of the box would be well saved by Trevor Carson, but Lewis Strapp was there to head home the rebound. He got there first after none of the Ross County defenders bothered to track back or follow him. Pretty, a very poor one to concede. But then 10 minutes later, a low cross from Strapp himself would fall to Chris Mottry after a poor attempt at a clearance. His effort from the edge of the box, that would find the bottom left corner. That made it 2-0 to the visitors after just 15 minutes. After this, County would have a few half chances. They'd attempt to get back into the game, but after Cole McKinnon's initial header was saved, his rebounded effort would find at the back of the net, making it 3-0 Airdrie after 39 minutes. Second half, meanwhile, County would start off strong with a goal disallowed among many chances, but Airdrie would start to ramp up the pressure, being rewarded with Adam Devine scoring a pretty similar goal to what he scored away at Raith Rovers, his first time effort after just making a charge down the wing, finding the bottom corner, making it 4-0 Airdrie with 10 minutes to go, ensuring a pretty comfortable win in the Highlands. So Airdrie earning a massive 3 points from this one, giving them some hope of survival, whether that is ninth or who knows, maybe catching eighth. Whilst but it's like with Airdrie, they do have the issue of the tough schedule. The next three fixtures are against the three informed sides. You've got St Johnston, and then you've got St Johnston away, Dunfermline at home, Thistle at home, and then finishing it off, they've got Ayr at home and Morton away in what will be some very big games there. Ross County, meanwhile, oh, um, not very good. Really, really bad. Like the fact they have the worst defense in the league is unsurprising. This defeat brought them to 52 goals conceded, which is by far the worst in the league. Morton have the second worst with 8. Not sorry, they've got 44 goals conceded. So that just shows just how bad it is there. Many fans saying that the players seem to have chucked it, and even Kettlewell seems to think the same. His post-match interview was one of just as a rival fan, it's one of those where you just know it's like that's it done, that's down, because it was one of those where like he called it worst defeat in the club's history. And it's like they've lost 6-0 this season. In it was just diabolically bad. their saving group, their relatively easy schedule. They have Queen's Park, Ayr, Morton to play, so the sides directly above them. But with how they performed there, it doesn't look like they'll get anything from it. Kieran, I'll just pass it to you for your thoughts on this game and the two sides.
Aye, I think the bottom line of this game, the headline story is that Ross County are absolutely fucked. Do you know what I mean, water is wet at this point. April, that is not surprising to me at all. Maybe the scoreline was a bit surprising to me. I didn't expect Airdrie to run out 4-0 winners, especially up at Dingwall. I think last week we mentioned this is going to be a game where I think both teams would kind of stink the gaff out. I didn't expect Airdrie to go through and absolutely demolish them 3-0 up in 35 minutes, 30 minutes, I think you said, Callum.
Aye.
First half, Ross County were dreadful, absolutely dreadful. I don't even think Airdrie were that good either, which is mental, considering that they were 4-0 winners, but Ross County were not good. I thought they were a lot better in the second half. Had quite a few more chances, but the damage was already done. When obviously Airdrie were 3-0 up that so early on, and that's a huge result for Airdrie as well. Just to talk about that as well, they're now 6 points behind Morton, and I mean, I think Morton are still all right. I don't know. I know there's still a few games to play. So who knows what will happen there? But I think that's a massive result for Airdrie, who at least dragged them out of the bottom spot. But Ross County, yeah, I don't really see any way back from them now. To be honest, like January would have been the time. I think we mentioned this last week as well. But January would have been the time. Maybe even December would have been the time for them to kick themselves back into gear and at least get them clear of the playoff spot. Nah, it's far too late now. And I think Ross County getting humbled, completely humbled. On Saturday, I think it's just put one of the final nails in the coffin. I think for a Ross County fan, you're just waiting for the season to end, kind of thing. It's absolutely mental considering everybody was thinking they were going to be up there fighting for the title and challenging St Johnstone for it, and it's completely went the opposite way, and I mean, get up them, I suppose, but it's still wild to think that I don't think the end of it. I thought this, July, August time before the season started, and it's you just wonder what has went wrong. Up at Dingle.
It's just like for Airdrie, it's still a case of best case scenario is probably still ninth. It's like yes, they are 6 points behind Morton with the same goal difference, and they do have that game in hand. But it's like the aforementioned schedule is where the issue is. As mentioned, St Johnstone, Thistle, and Dunfermline. I mean, obviously, yes, they did put on this performance against Ross County. I don't see them repeating it against those teams. So that just puts all the more pressure on the games against Ayr and Morton to finish off the season. But with Ross County, it's like that's 8 points behind Morton with 4 games to go. And with a goal difference of -24. And now the tied worst attack in the league, worst defence in the league. Funny enough, tied worst attack in the league with Airdrie. Which probably shows how bad this was for them. That's them done. That's them done because I'd seen that what was it? They hadn't won 3 games in a row since May 2021. So to expect them to do this now with the form that they've shown and just how pathetic they were in that game, it's not happening. Like this county team is finishing bottom. It's like just about everyone predicted them to finish top 2. We thought you were bold predicting them to finish fourth.
Yeah,
And it's just like they're finishing bottom. It's just utterly mental what's happened there. And it's just like you look at it's like on paper this is a squad that should be nowhere near relegation, but it's like they've gone through 3 managers, and it's just never happened. It's like they've won back-to-back games once this season, and it's like with the expectations and all that sort of stuff. It's just like how bad is this? How bad could it possibly get? Like this team's going to be in League One next season, and you do have to wonder. Um, Obviously, in the Premiership, it looked like it was coming for a while. But you surely, but it's like they'll have had release clauses for coming down from the Premiership, and it's like there'll be the expectation of coming straight back up. Everything will be fine and dandy. I don't think they'll have planned for this at all. There's no way. Like I don't think. Like we said, it's like the last time. What is it? It's been about 20 years since the team went Premiership to third tier, and so it's just like, there's no way they'll have planned for this whatsoever. So they're going to have these players on relatively big Championship contracts in League One. It's just mental to think about. Like no one saw this coming, and it's just wow. But with Airdrie, you do wonder. It's like if this is one that can, whilst maybe not take them up to eighth, if they can take it into the playoffs again, potentially keep themselves up if they perform like that against an Inverness, a Stenhousemuir, or whoever they end up facing. Because it's like last season. It's like they had a great uptick in form at the end, and that's ultimately what kept them up when they came up against Cove and I want to say Montrose. But I just be interesting to see how it goes with them, especially with them playing Morton for their final two, whether they can stage a great escape again. Aiden, your thoughts on either team?
But Ross County, they're a wee bit all over the place at the back. I think when you look at who they've signed, a lot of us would have taken a few of the players that they did bring in the summer because a lot of experience in there, good quality. But they've also signed those experienced players like Gallagher, Docherty, whose legs are kind of getting to that point where you can't really play full-time level in the Championship anymore, especially for a side like Ross County, who a lot thought would be top four at the least, especially coming down for the Premiership. I think you've seen Gallagher. There was one of the goals. He went to block it. It was pretty much a big, heavy first touch he took, and he had to throw himself at it. The Airdrie boy reacts first and puts it in the bottom corner. Kind of sums up Ross County because whenever they concede one or two, they don't react. We went up there and we put 3 by them without reply. Raith Rovers put a few past them without reply as well, and Airdrie have just done the same. So when they concede 1 or 2 goals, the heads just go instantly. They don't really have that recovery about them. They kind of get up for it. But I think you look at Airdrie on the other hand. They're only 6 points off fifth, as well as just being right behind us. The middle of the pack are all there together, same amount of points. If they can pull through a wee run and manage to beat these bigger hitters, then who knows where they'll be looking at come the end of the season. They could put us in a bit of a difficult position with the running we've got. We've got Raith Rovers next, then Queen's Park, 2 teams that we need at minimum 4 points off of, which would be difficult. So we're looking at us inside. If Morton slip up, then we can easily pull them in and overtake them with that game in hand.
It's like when you do see about Ross County's recruitment, about having basically a squad of Premiership has-beens, it's like it's like that sort of recruitment. It's like it works if you bring in 1 or 2 of them, just like a bit of experience in the squad of those who have played at a high level. It can help, It's like we saw it with Falkirk when they brought in Scott Arfield in the January transfer window last season. It definitely helped get them over the line, even if they did almost still chuck it. He was still providing experience, and he still contributed to that team getting to the over the line and getting that title. But an entire squad of it with players who don't have the legs, they just get run over.
It's an entirely new squad as well. It's an entirely new squad from last season.
There's no cohesion. It's just a team of Premiership has-beens, and that's what their issue has been, really. Kieran, you got anything to add about this?
I just going obviously what I touched on earlier on as well. When you were saying about the predictions I made. The prediction for Ross County finishing fourth. Around about, I think it was we just went up to Dingwall in the League Cup and beat them 3-1, and they weren't really looking up to much at all. And I made that probably still a bit crazy. Looking back on it, so at the time everybody thought they would be up there, whatever. But I just think they didn't impress me at all. And I think a few on that episode were saying, "Oh, that's probably just a one-off." We then went back up to Dingwall to play them in the league, and beat them 3-1 again. About 2-3 weeks after that. So, I don't think I foreseen even then them being in much kind of danger. I thought they'd kind of snap out of it eventually, but they haven't, and it's just been a cataclysmic run of form, a complete clusterfuck of form. It's just led to them being where they are, and it's absolutely mental. I think they'll struggle in League One as well. That's a league that, I mean, I've been in League One. I've seen Vissel in League One, and only for one season, mind you, and we managed to get out of it. But we were pretty dreadful. Even though we won the league, we were pretty dreadful, and it led to a Falkirk. The only reason we pretty much won, we picked up form at the right time, and Falkirk's arse just completely collapsed. And aye, that it's not a good league to struggle. Like, you think like the Championship's not a good league to struggle in, but the League One's worse. It's an awful league to struggle in, and I mean, who knows? Who knows what will happen? But I don't foresee them getting out of this rut for quite a long time.
I mean, you're looking at Ross County to try and pick up 12 points at the last 4 games. They've only picked up 28 out of 32 games. So what chance have they got of picking up maximum points out of four games?
No.
And they probably need 12 points to keep themselves safe.
And that's just not happening. And it's like Kieran, as you were saying about like struggling in League One, it's like trying to think. Falkirk took 4 seasons to get out. Raith last time took 3. Dunfermline at one time they took a couple of seasons to get out. I think Morton as well. I vaguely remember them taking a couple of years to get back up. But it's like, see, being a full-time team in League One, people think it's easy. It's not. It's hell. It's utter hell, because it's like you can't afford to be properly full-time. You're gonna have hybrid players. You're gonna have a hybrid squad, sorry, and every team in that division is going to see you as the big scalp that they can get. It's basically 4 cup games, really. So, it's like County going down would just be utterly disastrous, and it would take them ages to get out. But it also brings up the question about Roy McGregor, because he's been investing, or as a sponsor of some sort, in Bigoden, who have just recently been announced as being promoted to the Highland League. And it's like, what's going to happen with Roy and Ross County? Is he going to wind back his funding? How is County going to get out without it? It's just, if it's just, you just worry. Really, it's going to be a tough few years if should County finish bottom or should they get relegated. It's like with Airdrie, as I said, it's like with these performances, you see them and you think, okay, if they are in the playoffs, you can see there is a chance of them staying up. They proved it last season. If County end up in the playoffs, you don't.
No.
They haven't shown it at all this season that there's any hope of them staying up. They're really, really in trouble.
I think as well, when you look at Ross County in terms of recruitment, obviously a lot of these guys will want to move on if they go to League One. And our Broth, German spoke about it before, they struggle to attract players in the Championship just because of where they're located. So Ross County, they're in League One. They're going to struggle to bring players in that even know that league or even know the Championship to help them get back up. And as you said, a lot of other teams will see it as a free hit when they play Ross County. Nothing to lose. Everybody expects them to get beat and they'll go there. And right now, you'd back them to beat Ross County.
Aye, absolutely. But it's interesting you do mention about that recruitment, because it's like Inverness have that sort of problem, but they've still been able to, it's like they've got competent management now, and and it's it's like we'll get onto Inverness later, but yeah, it's like County don't have competent management. That's the issue. They could very easily end up in the sort of. I think Queen herself have now been in League One for what 4 seasons,
Yeah.
and they've not been anywhere near a title challenge to the best of my knowledge. So could very easily end up like what Queen herself are right now. Um, but yeah, it's like just well done to Airdrie for this result because that's just massive for them. It was like as I mentioned, it was any a failure to win was it done. It's like both sides. A win would have kept any sort of survival hopes alive, and this definitely keeps it alive for Airdrie. But we'll move on now to um, about towards the top end, where we have Ayr United hosting Partick Thistle. Thistle, they were looking to keep up their late title charge, while John Rankin's Ayr United now, seeing as he's the interim manager, this is his first game in charge of the club. Kieran, I believe you made a trip down to Ayr on 0 hours sleep, so I'll let your sleep deprived memory take us away.
I was down there on Saturday. I, as you said, on 0 hours sleep. Had a horrendous decision by myself. But there was two changes to the team. Clark came back after the Northern Ireland. After being in the Northern Ireland call-up, and Fraser Taylor came in for his first ever Thistle start. I think his cameo against Ross County, he deserved that. That was his first game back for injury, and he looked really good. So merited to start. I think first half pretty much was a non-event really. Not really much to report in terms of attacks or chances really. I think there was a couple of half chances either side. Nothing really happened to be honest. Second half started and Stanway forced Mitchell into a save for a curling effort. I think it was just about 5 minutes after the second half, and just after that, Dowds then missed a sitter from 7 yards out. I think I was down getting something to eat or away to the toilet or something. Can't remember, but I think I was on my way back and I was watching it, and I was almost certain it was in. But no, I managed to miss with 7 yards out, which was mental. Ashcroft, who then in the first half received a first yellow, um, received a second just after that, and obviously gets sent off. I don't really have any complaints about that. Really, I do have complaints about Ross Hardy, which we'll go on to talk about. That will probably be my wee section of ref watch, as we like to call it. But some said the first was was soft, but I don't know. I don't really have any complaints about sending off. Really, he was on a yellow, and he still kind of bundled them over. So, I don't really have any complaints really. After the sending off, naturally we were forced to defend our box. Ayr just fired everything at us, and about 3 separate occasions Ayr had chances around about the 5 to 10 yard box and couldn't put them away. And and I think as well as that, it was either Clark or one of their defence made a really good block, but aye, as soon as you go 10 men down, obviously, you lose a man and you feel the worst, but you managed to take the lead through Lowry. It was a corner whipped into the box from Fraser Taylor, sorry, and Mitchell punched it, but it just fell into the path of Lowry, who kind of stabbed it home in front of the away end and gave us a lead, which was so we were obviously checking the result at a Broth and St Johnstone game, which we'll obviously want to discuss. But St Johnstone took the lead at that time. I think they were 2-1 up or something. We were like, for fuck's sake, that's brutal. Literally a minute after that, not even a minute after that, we take the lead. So that was pretty decent. But and then after that, there was shouts to a penalty for us, which looking back on it, I never really thought much at the time, but looking back on it, the ball's whipped in. into the box out for Diak, and the other defender. I don't know if it's either Liam Dick or Holt. I'm not entirely sure, but he puts his hand on Diak's face to stop him getting to the ball. And the referee doesn't give it, which I think if it's in the other end, if it's in any other area of the pitch, that's a foul. So how that wasn't given was mental, and he wasn't getting to it either. So that's why he put his hand in his face, and aye, mental. Anyway, Airdrie obviously got a penalty, and again it was a stone wall for me. Lowry, who I thought was excellent, that game obviously gave us a lead as well. He kind of bundles him over in the box, kind of clambers over him. Anton Dowd who goes down. And some people say it went soft, but the referee's going to give it. And Jamie Murphy, who I thought at first Bannigan was going to take the penalty because he's had his hands on the ball. It was taken to the spot, and I was, oh my god, Bannigan's going to take a penalty and potentially score against us. But Jamie Murphy slotted it home past Clark to draw a level, and then Ayr again missed a good chance, another good chance again. That was 5-10 yards. I think it was 10 yards out. Put it wide. I think if that's a team on another day, they would have thrashed us about 4 or 5-1. The Ayr passed up so many good chances on Saturday. After that, I think the game kind of fizzled out. Really, nothing much really happened after that. We take a point, which I suppose was a fair result. And I think we kind of had to battle for it. But I get on to talk about the referee now. Ross Hardy's an absolute joke. An absolute joke. There was obviously, as I said, two decisions: the penalty and the sending off for Ashcroft. I thought I got them spot on, but Bannigan went right through Ingram, which obviously is not like Bannigan at all. He's a very clean player, doesn't play dirty at all. Bannigan, goes right through Ingram, not even giving us a foul. I think Holt as well fouls Taylor off the ball as we're on the attack. I think Taylor's running next to, I'm trying to think, might be McPherson, not entirely sure. Holt fouls Fraser Taylor off the ball, which again wasn't even giving us a foul. And then there's a stat as well in the last three. So Ross Hardy has managed 3 Ayr Thistle games. He's awarded a penalty for Ayr in each of the 3 games, which I don't know. You can take that stat as probably we just need to stop fouling players in the box, probably. But it's absolutely mental, including a penalty which was retaken. So Miles Roberts saved it. I think this might have been the first game we managed between the two of us. But Miles Roberts saved it, and then Ross Hardy said, "No, he needs to retake it." Which I just don't think that's ever seen at a Scottish Championship game. A player having to retake a penalty, but and then obviously Ayr scored that. But other than my wee rant there about Ross Hardy, I mean, I thought defensively we were solid. Obviously we were forced to play with 10 men and had to defend our box a wee bit. I thought Ingram looked really good at the back again. He's really impressed me. I think he's only on loan, which I would love to see him tied down in a permanent deal. I think he's been fantastic since he joined, and I think it was February time. But Lowry I thought was good as well. Other than the penalty he gave away. But Sosa was pretty good as well off the bench. Gave us a kind of burst of energy which we never really had in the probably the first 10-15 minutes. The first half and the 15 minutes of before he come on. I thought he looked really good as well. Kind of changed the game for us a wee bit. But I obviously, as we're going to talk about the Arbroath St Johnstone game, it kind of was a bit, not disappointed, but kind of a bit downhearted because it was, again, it was a chance to, close the gap on Ayr. But obviously, as it stands, we're 5 points behind, and pretty much one of them that it's kind of at parts we're probably lucky to get away with a draw, but the chances there passed up. But On the other hand, we could have been so much better. We know we can play so much better than that. But it's just one of the ones we've got to take it on the chin and move on.
I was going to say about you mentioned Stuart Bannigan there. Is that I mind you put in the chat about how was Bannigan not being sent off or whatever, and I just remember replying about how it's like this is the least surprising thing I've heard. It baffles me how he doesn't get sent off in every other game. But it's like with the draw though, you can look on the bright side. Thanks to that, and Arbroath getting beaten by St Johnson, which we'll get onto in a minute. Thistle have guaranteed themselves second in the league, so decent amount of prize money. You missed out on the first round of the playoffs.
I think that's 10 games unbeaten for us as well, which is pretty good.
I had seen it was like the second time this season these have done that, reaching 10 games unbeaten in a row. So we'll stick that in the title trophy cabinet.
Yes, too right, Cal. Too right.
But when it comes to A United, meanwhile, it's a really good point to get a draw against second in the league. But it's like when you look at their fixtures, and of course with Airdrie winning and that gap being 6 points, and it is a case of it's like they're not out of the woods yet. It's like as we're recording this, they are playing against Dunfermline, and as we actually started talking about it, Dunfermline made it 2-0. So it's safe to say they're not getting anything from this game. But when it comes to the rest of their fixtures, it's like they're at home to Arbroath, who are. It's like we were talking off air. We're having a quick look at the form table for the last 10. It's like Arbroath are down 8 for it, but Ayr are bottom. And it's like we've said before about Ayr having a pretty terrible home record. So it's like maybe that's an opportunity for it. And then it's like they've got two massive games, Ross County and Airdrie. The issue being they're both away from home, but it's a case of just a result against either of those two. I think is enough to keep them up. The last game of the season's at home to St Johnstone, and I don't really, I don't see them getting anything from that. But it's like I think just one result in their next three should be enough to keep them in the division. But I definitely disappointing from a Thistle perspective. It's like you just brought back that gap to 2 points, and now it's dropped away again. But Aiden, any thoughts on either team?
I expected John Rankin to get some sort of reaction at their United squad. He's also been in the Championship before. He's not one of these managers that's just going to let them push him over or whatever. But one of the games, there wasn't really a lot of quality in it. Neither keeper really had a lot to do from what I'd seen. But I think it's a better point for Ayr than it is for Thistle. They were disappointed that they never got all three, especially how it went with St Johnstone. For me personally, I think Thistle are slightly better than St Johnstone and maybe deserve to win the league more than they do. But we'll go into that when we speak about St Johnstone. But Ayr United, I think they'll be fine. As you said, I think most teams around that 5th to 8th kind of place, one win could probably survive you in the Championship for another season. Ayr will get at least 4 or 5 points out of the last few games with John Rankin. Made a big call though, bringing David Mitchell in from the start. He's not even been on the bench in the last few months under Scott Brown. He's threw the two young boys, two other goalkeepers on the bench. So he's got a lot of trust there to throw a man in between the sticks. It's not played a lot of football this season. Like I say, it paid off in the end, but he never had a lot to do. For me, Ayr United will be totally fine. They'll stay in the league.
It's funny how it is John Rankin who is taking over, because I think it was you, Aiden, who mentioned last week about him being the one to take over when he was asking about managers. So you've been vindicated pretty quickly there. But I think it will be interesting with John Rankin because it's like he is an interim, but it's like I wouldn't be surprised if he does. Like let's say he manages to get wins against both County and Airdrie. Whether the Air Board decides to keep him on as like a permanent role, or whether they do continue with him as an interim anyway, and then just bring someone else in permanently. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, right now 2-0 down to Dunfermline isn't exactly what you want, but it's Ayr United at home this season. As mentioned, not very good. But we do go on to the other game at the top of the table, and that being Arbroath at home to St Johnstone. Arbroath looking to replicate their win from early on in the season, while Saints looking to at least maintain their gap at the top of the table. It wouldn't go to plan first half. Ryan Dow on the counter attack, giving Arbroath a lead 34 minutes in. The lead wouldn't last long, however. Jamie Garland slotting home a low cross under McAdams to equalise for Saints. Second half, meanwhile, would be a bit more entertaining. A lot more attempts from St Johnstone, who started very strong. Liam Smith would give Saints the lead after 56 minutes. Sort of cross to the edge of the box would just meet his head as he's making a charging run in. And man, it's a really good header. He's got a really good amount of power behind it. Which, I mean, like if it's headed from the edge of the box, you sort of need that. However, Arbroath would immediately get an equaliser. His free kick from the edge of the box would find O'Brien at the back post, making it 2-2. But then 10 minutes later, Josh Fowler is played through and manages to just power it with his left foot past McAdams to restore Saints' lead. And I believe it was his first goal for St Johnstone since joining. I want to say it's either his first or his second. I'm not sure if he's scored since joining, but so he was able to get the lead back, and then after a free, Jack Baird, meanwhile, he'd make it 4 free kicks put into the box, but then like an Arbroath defender, instead of clearing it, his header makes it go backwards to the back post where Jack Baird just happened to be. Pretty easy one for him to put away, and yeah, it's like Saints had chances to make it 5, and Arbroath just started hacking everyone. I think they got like 4 yellow cards in the last 15 minutes. But yeah, Saints, it's like with that result, they managed to bring their lead back up to 5 points after the Thistles draw. Whilst Arbroath, as well, before we were recording, they would have been 4 points ahead of Dunfermline, but now Dunfermline, whilst being 2 up against Ayr, it's a gap of 1 point with a game in hand and a far superior goal difference. Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think pretty much first half, other than the 2 goals, the goal for either side, nothing much really happened, to be honest. Second half started and it was pretty much all St Johnstone, and then got their second goal and it was pretty much well deserved. But I got to say, like, it was a good header from Liam Smith, but I think from an Arbroath point of view, probably got to be doing a lot better than that. Liam Smith was just completely unmarked at the back post, and but it was still a good header nonetheless. I don't want to discredit Liam Smith too much for that, but and then obviously, as I said, that Arbroath equalised straight away about 2 minutes after or something like that. And again, like, Saints have got to be doing better as well, conceding straight away, for your set piece as well. We've got to be doing a lot better there. Then obviously, as you said, Fowler I think it might be his first, I'm not entirely sure. But it was a lovely finish, really good goal for him. If it was his first, just what a way to get himself up and running. And then obviously Jack Baird secured the win with that, and I think that pretty much. I didn't realise my bro were like that close to Dunfermline now. But now, obviously, as you said, they're 1 point. Now, as of tonight, 1 point ahead, which, I mean, I think they will still be in the playoffs. I think there's no doubt about that. But obviously, after maintaining third for majority of the season, I think they'd be disappointed not finishing third and finishing fourth. But on the other hand, I think that's St Johnstone pretty much got one hand on the title, you've got to say. And second half just kind of blew Arbroath away pretty much, despite obviously Arbroath pegging them back again in the second half. But St Johnstone were, I think they were good, really good, honestly, in the second half. And I mean, there's still 5 points in it. You know what I mean? 4 games left. You know, so anything can happen, I suppose. But I think you'd be kind of daft to not think that that's St Johnstone. You know, got the upper hand now, pretty much in the passenger seat. For winning the league, but aye. That's pretty much it. I was kind of hopeful heading into this game before it because I think Arbroath beat St Johnstone before earlier on this season 3-1 at Gayfield, so I was kind of thinking hopefully they could drop points, but it just kind of shows you the quality against St Johnstone have, and if they have a poor first half, obviously as you've seen, and get pegged back, they can come back and win. So suppose that's what you're up against.
It's like Arbroath are definitely lucky in the fact that it's like with 4 or 5 games left, their gap to that 5th to 8th blob is 11 points. It's like it would take a monumental effort from both Arbroath and someone in that blob to come back and steal that playoff spot. But yeah, I think it was like a month ago or something like that. We were saying, yep, that's it. Arbroath pretty comfortable in third. It's 1 point with a game in hand now, and it's like looking at the form table is like for the last 5, they've only got 5 points. At 8th in that table, last 10 again, 11 points in 10. At 8th in that table, only ahead of Ross County and Ayr. It's just sort of slid down the form table as the season's gone on. But it's at the end of the day, it's like to get playoffs way above what their expectations were going into the season. But yeah, it's a very good win from St John's. There's been a lot of criticism from Saints fans about recent performances, especially with their back-to-back draws. So to come away with a pretty convincing victory like that is definitely something that they'll be happy with. Aiden, any thoughts on these two?
First half, I don't think St Johnstone were at it. I think Arbroath caught them by surprise a wee bit, which I still find a bit concerning from a St Johnstone point of view. We're 30 odd games in, it still feels like they don't know how to play against certain championship sides. Almost got a bit of arrogance about them, which I don't think they should have. I think all of us know going up to Arbroath is a really difficult place. It's one of the harder venues in the league to get up there and come away with a win. But second half, they've also had some sort of reality check at half time, and it was a much more champion-like performance from them in the second half. So they need to show that a wee bit more consistently between now and the end of the season. Keep that gap at 5. Don't let it close any further. I think I just dropped there.
Yeah. But it's like, what will be interesting is the fact that Arbroath played on Furman on the final day. Be interesting. I mean, it's like end of the day, it's not really going to mean much aside from prize money that is distributed between teams. But it just sort of is what it is. And like you say about St Johnstone having that 5 point gap, it just feels like that's it over. But it's like you're all right about that sort of arrogance, like Cal was saying in the group chat about how Arbroath were deserving of the lead after about 35 minutes in the hat. And he mentioned something about it being almost 2-0 at one point. So, it's like this game could have been very different, but no, it's perfect result for St Johnstone. Moving on to the final Saturday Championship game, and that was, of course, Dunfermline at home to Morton. Pars looking to continue their excellent form in recent months. I think they're like either the most in form or like in the top 3 when it comes to the form tables. Meanwhile, Morton were hoping to see if Ian Murray can continue to work his magic at East End Park. Aidan, I'll let you take us away with this one.
It was quite a dull first half, but it was very even as well in the whole. Our goal came from a good bit of play. Curtis Main used his body well, gets between the ball and the man, knocks it onto Cameron Blues, and I have to say it's quite poor defensively from Dunfermline. When you look at it, they're just kind of throwing bodies about. And Bluesy puts it in the bottom corner. But see, from there on, we didn't look like they were going to do anything. We allowed Dunfermline to kind of control the play a wee bit. we just kind of sat back. It was kind of a wee bit like Morton of old, where we take a 1-0 lead and we're like, we're a wee bit comfortable now. We'll sit here and we'll see how the next 20 minutes plays. We get into half time, we're okay. And to concede that early on in the second half, it's just poor. We don't deal with balls into the box. We've got a young back line, so we need the more experienced players in the team to kind of step up and help us through that. But to concede 2 goals in 3-4 minutes, at this level, you get punished. If you're not at it defensively. Ball comes across the front post. Chris Moore gets caught. The boy nips in front of him, just puts it past Murray. They've got another chance a few minutes later. Murray pulls off a great save to keep it at 2-1. We've got a few chances. We have chances here and there. We own Moffat testing the goalkeeper. Again, corner comes to nothing. It's easily dealt with the goalkeeper. And then they kind of kill it off, to make it 3-1. It's too easy down the right-hand side from Dunfermline all game. From our point of view, we just kind of need to put it away now and focus on trying to get a point against Raith Rovers at the very least. I think at the weekend we wanted a minimum of a point. When you're playing against teams like Dunfermline, they're still in and about you, but you're maybe not looking at them. But on their side of things, great result for Dunfermline. Ever since we beat them 2-0 at Capello a few months ago, they've been excellent. They've got the Scottish Cup semi-final coming up as well. They're a real turn in form. They're playing the way everybody thought Neil Lennon would get them playing. And as you say, they're closing that gap on Arbroath. Good result coming in at the minute as it stands. So, yeah, they'll be looking to close that gap, and Arbroath finish third and see where the playoffs can take them. They'll probably fancy their chances in 2 games against Partick Thistle, for instance. They'll fancy their chances, especially at East End. And then whoever's second bottom in the Premiership, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, again, they'll fancy their chances against both of them. I think there's a lot of confidence at Dunfermline at the minute. Morton point of view, though, it's just try and stable up a wee bit more at the back and at least build the gap a wee bit more than 6 points to Airdrie.
It's like with Dunfermline, it's a case of like after those back-to-back losses against Morton and Arbroath, they got a draw against Partick Thistle, and then they've won 4 of the last 5 league games. The one they failed to win was that 2-0 draw last week against Ross County, where they came from 2 behind. They have that 3-0 win against Aberdeen in the Cup, which will obviously bring a boost. As it is currently the 83rd minute at the time of recording, they're 2-0 up against Ayr, which, as mentioned, is bringing them to within a point of Arbroath. So it's looking very promising for Dunfermline. Of course, after this, they do have Partick Thistle at the weekend, Airdrie then on the Tuesday, followed by Falkirk in the Scottish Cup semi-final. So it'll be very interesting into their season, with a Cup semi-final, potentially a Cup final, but then they've also got the playoffs, which, if I remember correctly, brings about an issue, because if they do make it to the playoff final, I think I'm right in saying it's like the playoff final is played on like the same weekend as the Scottish Cup final. I think they have the SPFL have put out the dates for it, but if trying to go off of last year, it was a case of you had, I think Livingston played Ross County on like the Wednesday or the Thursday. You then had the Scottish Cup final on the Sunday, and then the playoff final was on the Monday night, which is just bizarre. I have no idea why they have it on the Monday, but so definitely an interesting end to the season for them, and then in the perfect sort of form for this, especially when you consider the teams that are potentially going to be in that playoff. It could be St Mirren, it could be Aberdeen, it could be Kilmarnock. I wouldn't be surprised if this sort of informed Dunfermline team does go on to beat them. And it pains me to say it as much as it does, but it's like they're playing well, and it's like it's the right time. It can happen, and it's like, same can be said of Partick. It's like they can win the playoff, but it's like for Morton, it's like you say, they are the one closest. They are sitting in 8th. They've got like the same goal differences Airdrie with like a game more. They're only 6 points ahead, but like you say, it's like when it comes to the remaining fixtures, as mentioned, Raith away, but then you've got Queen's Park at home, County away, and that final game fixture against Airdrie at home, which surely brings an advantage. Again, like I was saying about Air, just a result in any of those games, and you'd have to imagine that's more than safe.
Look,
But
see, for us, I think
sorry.
5 points is probably what we'd be aiming for out of these last 4 games. I think 5 points guarantees us another year in the Championship. You want to hit around the 40 points. So if we can get to minimum 40, then I've no doubt that we'll be still in the league next season.
It definitely feels that way of how it's going. I don't even think it will be 40. I think it'll probably be about 38, I want to say. Just taking into consideration Airdrie's fixtures. And before I let you go talk about it, Kieran, I will just say that Dunfermline have just made it 3-0. So, needless to say, I think that game's done. But, Kieran, your thoughts on these two teams?
I think you have pretty much hit the nail on the head, to be honest. Both of you. It was. I think Morton will be. I would say raging. I've got down here raging. But I think they'll be more disappointed with the way they chucked away the lead so easily, especially conceding the 2 goals so quickly one after another. But I think Morton will be fine. I think even though there is only 6 points, and I'm talking about 5 points between us and St Johnstone might be nothing, but I think Morton are just taking that Airdrie into consideration. I think they're safe for the drop, but I think they will finish second bottom. I think Morton will just be all right. But it's a good result for Dunfermline, obviously, and they're obviously having a even better result tonight away down at Somerset as we speak. Obviously, 3-0 up and a point behind Arbroath with a game in hand. And I think they would fancy themselves if they get to the playoff finals. They've beat 2 top flight teams on the way to the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup, and that's against one a Hibs team that have finished in the top 6. I think they're 4th at the moment. So no,
Now
they're
they're
5th. Sorry,
they're
5th.
currently fifth, 3 points
Aye,
behind the
one
world beaters
one place
Motherwell.
behind. Aye, but still, that's a team that have finished in the top 6, who had aspirations of finishing like 4th kind of thing. So, they're no mugs, certainly no mugs at all. And I think if obviously as well, they could come up against Aberdeen as well, who they've already beat them obviously in the cup, very convincingly as well, 3-0. So. I think if Dunfermline get to the playoff finals, I think they'd fancy themselves. As much as pretty much I think anyone would as well in the playoff final, considering how poor that bottom bracket of the Scottish Premiership have been, really. And I think as well when we played St Mirren in the cup as well. I didn't think there were anything to kind of write home about. Obviously, I think they got their 2 goals and that kind of killed it off. But we had them on the ropes for the last 15 minutes of that game after Stanley pulled one back. So even if they come up, even if anything comes up against them, St Mirren, you know what I mean? They're a good side, but they're beatable on their day, and I don't. Neil Lennon's got them playing well at the right time. Obviously, again, you've got the momentum. He's got the momentum going at the right time. Just coming into the business end of the season, into the as well as that playing for the playoffs and that as well. It's probably the right amount of momentum you want heading into games like these.
I think as well, when you look back at when we beat Dunfermline 2-0, there's a lot of Dunfermline fans calling for Lennon to go. They wanted him out of the club because they were just on a bad run, they were drawing a lot, they were losing a lot. He's a good manager, he's won big games, he's managed in big games, he's won trophies, so he knows how to get through the business end of the season. He's shown that right now, that he knows how to win these games, and he's doing it convincingly as well. That's currently 6 goals in a couple of days that his team have scored.
It's definitely right time, right place to be on this sort of run of form, and it's as annoying as it is for me to say, it is. It's like, whilst they do have for a team that's going to end up in the promotion playoffs, a relatively low amount of points. It's just because of how poorly everyone really started this season, and it's like the second half of the season, just going through like the form table. Last five, they'll be on 13 points, which is the most in the division. Last 10, 17 points, which is only 3 points less than St Johnstone and Partick Thistle. It's like that's nothing to be sniffed at. Like that's really good form to be going into this final stretch of the season. And it's like I'm hoping, it's like they do lose to Falkirk in the cup semi-final. They get put out by Partick Thistle just for my own sake. But it's it's like the league table for them right now is a bit deceptive. It's like the points don't tell everything, especially with how they've been recently. Um, but it's like Morton and Morton. They'll be fine. They'll find a way to finish sixth somehow.
I think our performances lately haven't been great either, though, which is a bit of a concern. We can score. We're sure we can score goals again, but the performance level is really poor. I think the managers say that a few times as well after games that the performance level isn't there. We're also carrying a few injuries. People are playing through injuries, but at this stage of the season, you can't really use that as an excuse. You just need to get through it, find a way to get through it. You're in a dogfight at the bottom end of the league, but as you both say, I think we will be fine. Whether we finish eighth, finish fifth, I don't think it really matters this season for any of us. We're just all happy to be in that middle of the pack and no involved in anything.
It's just a case of it's like those last two games, County and Airdrie. It's like that's where you're really hoping to get those points, like at an absolute minimum.
I mean, it'd be good to get into those last two games, knowing, let's say we beat Raith Rovers and get a draw against Queen's Park or vice versa. We come away with 4 points out of those two in the last two games. Are just almost kind of enjoy yourself, play the last two games, and nothing to worry about. But as you say, they're the games that you would like to ideally get maximum points.
It's definitely the case with more, and like I said, it's a case of they'll be fine, especially with the fact that they have to play Ross County again. The fact they have to play Ross County is enough for me. But so that's all the Saturday's championship action. But the podcast is not done because it's time for the main event. Sunday afternoon saw the Challenge Cup final contested by Raith Rovers and Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Raith looking to win their first match outside of Kirkcaldy since the 2nd of September, but a win would equal Falkirk's record of 4 titles, while Inverness, who were unbeaten in 16, had knocked out they knocked out Ayr, and they'd already won at Firhill this season, knocking out Partick Thistle on their way to the final. So 16 game unbeaten run, but starting to falter a little bit. A couple draws, more draws than wins recently, but still they made it here, and they were looking for their 3rd title. And with this one, it was very much a case of championship team versus League One team. Like, you could just tell. Raith were very much on top from the beginning, especially for the first half. Ennis Cameron had a weird effort early on where it's like his effort was saved by the goalkeeper, but the keeper spilled it and it came to Cameron, but he was sort of blocked with it was an empty net, but he was blocked by an Ayr defender, and so he did like this weird flick. It's like I was behind the goal, so I didn't have the greatest view of it, but I was like watching the highlights, I could actually see what he done, and I was just like, "What are you trying? What have you tried?" But I would eventually take the lead after 29 minutes. Alfie Stewart would receive the ball just outside the box, but his poor touch, it just went backwards, straight to Ennis Cameron, who stood on the edge of the box. Striker's instinct, manages to put in a really nice finish, just curl it into the bottom right corner, giving Raith the lead. And, it very much continued being mostly Raith, but then a fairly soft, I want to say it's a soft foul at the edge of the box. Would lead to a free kick, and Alfie Stewart would redeem himself. His free kick, finding the bottom corner, having curled around the wall. Now, whilst I was behind the goal, at the time I thought it was a deflection because Cope really, to put it simply. But watching it back, it is a case of with the position of where it was, Rage simply overcommitted positionally for the cross, but then like his wall was not set up in an appropriate way to actually like block a shot. It's the way it curled. It didn't really like if it had gone right in the bottom corner, right by the post. Fair enough, but it wasn't. There was a good yard or two between the ball and the post when it went in. So I definitely blame for it definitely goes on to Josh Ray. But like I say, it was a bit soft about itself. For the 10 minutes after that, pretty much all Inverness. Inverness definitely found their feet in those 10 minutes, but weren't really able to create anything aside from I think it was like Ross Millen had an effort that just went away from the goal, but it was getting a bit shaky, But it's like we got into half time, it's still level, and the second half, what a wonderful time that was. Um, a late challenge on the edge of the box, roughly where the Inverness free kick was, funnily enough. Would see it's like Ennis was down on the ground for a wee bit, it's like he'd been caught pretty nastily. It was like just above the ankle. Definitely a bit of a sore one, but it's like he sort of hobbled back into the box and then the ball just comes in and he just bursts in, gets a toe on it, puts it in 2-1 Raith. And it's like we just never looked back from it. Never looked back from it. Not long after, again, a weird mistake. And initially, I wanted to put this on Alfie Stewart because he plays it back to an Inverness player, but the Inverness player just like lifts their leg up, thinking there's someone else behind him. Whether it's a case of Alfie Stewart just putting too much power on it, and the other player just interpreting it as not meant for him but for someone behind. Whatever happened, it happened. Easton was first to pick up on it, and he does what he does. He just runs into the box and smashes it with his left foot. Weirdly enough, I don't recall him scoring many with his left foot, but he smashes it past the keeper to make it 3-1 on the hour. And then 10 minutes later, Inverness were trying to play it out from the back, but Scott Brown's slide tackle interception falls to Dylan Easton, who once again performs his magic. He just bodies the Inverness defender, cuts inside, curls it just inside the post. Beautiful finish, beautiful goal. 4-1 Raith Rovers, and that is how it would finish. So, in dominant fashion, Raith Rovers are your 2026 Challenge Cup champions. The one trophy that's being paraded at Firhill this season, coming back to Kirkcaldy. I knew that was coming. But
Cannot wait to clip this, by the way. Cannot wait to clip that.
But it's like as mentioned, we do equal Falkirk's record of 4 times winning this competition. We're just going to ignore the multiple iterations of Airdrie having a combined 5. But it's like if Clydebank come into the league, maybe they'll just be like, actually, these titles are ours. But but yeah, it's like this one was just exactly what I wanted from Rafe, and it's exactly what we showed with the 3 games in the week that we had a couple of weeks ago. Just just a complete performance. We were all over them. It was, and it's like we created plenty of chances, plenty of half chances, and most importantly, we were clinical. It's like I don't remember. It's like aside from that first Innis Cameron effort, there wasn't really any proper big chances that we missed. So it makes a change from like the many complaints I have made this season about this Wraith team. And it's like aside from that 10-minute period after the goal, Inverness weren't really in it. But as mentioned, first win outside of Kirkcaldy in 7 months. It's just mental to think about. Like I said, 2nd of September away against Greenock Morton. So I think that's what I think there was 12 league games and then 3 cup games. Nope, 4 cup games because we had Aberdeen's, and then we had Queen's Park and Airdrie in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, but we got through on penalties. So it's like draw after 90 minutes doesn't really count, but So I finally get a win away from home is nice. The fact that I only missed 2 in that time is pretty depressing. But it's like with that result and with the performances of the last week, I like to think we'll finish the season strong. A lot of the player is real confidence in the squad now, but a lot of them, a good, at least half of those players are out of contract in the summer, and I can only imagine that. I think of that half of them, I think most of them would probably be away. Just as I've said before about this squad needing a refresh. So with this cup win, I like to think it'll be like that sort of cherry on top. Thanks for everything. You can leave on a high. That's just how it's going to be. And it's like who knows? Maybe Raith win the last 5 games and our bro shit the bed and we make it in the playoffs somehow. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's like with how we've been and with our remaining fixtures, which obviously we've got County at home on the final day, which is like considering what happened last time. Pretty confident for it. We have Morton at the weekend again. Just get a result in that one, whether it be a draw or whatever. Be fine with it. Queens Park in Arbroath away. I think now that we've got that hoodoo off our back when it comes to not winning away from Cardiff, I like to think it's at Queens Park, bit of an injury crisis right now, especially defensively. I like to think we can possibly get a result. It's like we don't have to win. It's like we don't have to win these games. Just get a minimum of a draw. That's it. That's safe. That's really what it is now. But aye, just very, just a wonderful day out at Firhill, to say the least. But quickly when it comes to Inverness, it's like they're currently in a fight for League One title. As mentioned, this is their first loss in 16, but they have been drawing games recently. It's weird because it's like they've knocked out championship teams on their way to this final, but it's like we've played them. We've played them twice this season. We played them in the summer in the League Cup, where we play them in the League Cup. Yeah, we did play them in the League Cup. We won. I've got 5-1 in my head. I think it was 5-1, and then of course this final we won 4-1. I think it's a case of looking at just from what I have seen in person. Obviously, I've not been watching Inverness highlights, but from what I've seen this season, if Inverness are to come up, which is fairly likely, I like to think they will win that League One title. They're going to need some big improvement over the summer if they're going to want to be competitive. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about this. Just very happy to once again have a trophy to talk about at the end of the season. It's like with how I was feeling about about a month ago. Couldn't be happier. Kieran, obviously, with this one being at Firhill, your thoughts on the game and the two teams as a whole?
I pretty much. First of all, I just want to say, I don't think I would ever say this in my official supporting life, but I'm actually really happy for the Gamery. Obviously, he's had a really tough year, personally. So I'm really happy for that. I'm really happy, got that trophy and that as well. Had that day out, which obviously would have been needed. I watched his post match interview. It popped up on Twitter, and it was. He obviously mentioned how tough it's been for him personally. With obviously the lot of his, sad loss of his daughter, and I was getting very emotional, getting choked up, kind of mentioning it, kind of talking about it, and that was a really emotional interview. So I'm really, really happy for him. But Inverness, I just didn't threaten at all, as you said. I didn't watch the game live. I think we had the Celtic game on instead. So big team confirmed. But it was pretty much just a case of the gap between the Championship and the League One team just really, really showed. Inverness didn't really threaten him at all. The first goal was just a complete gift for Innes Cameron, and I think he's actually a decent player as well. I don't know if you'll be thinking on. I think he's only on loan as well, so I'm assuming you want him back permanently. But from what I've seen, he's a pretty decent player. But Raith, deserved it. I thought after Inverness getting the equaliser, they maybe could have made a game of it, but the second half, Raith just kind of completely blew them away, and Raith ran out, winners. Hopefully, it's not the only trophy getting lifted at Firhill this season. I don't think I'd be able to lift myself if that was the case. So, sounds like a pretty good day out, in the best stadium in the world, Callum. So, aye.
I was going to say, it was weird being in the John Lambie stand, because that now means I've been in all three stands, and it's like being in that stand reminded me of the fact that there is in fact a scoreboard at
Aye.
at Foothill, because it's like in the Colin Way stand you can't see it, although but it is a literal scoreboard. There's no like time like there is at Starks Park. It's just the luxuries of being in Kirkcaldy, I suppose. That it's like these are the standards that I'm used to. But it's like when you're saying about Innes Cameron, I would love to keep him. Like his contribution's been immense. Like he got his first goal against Airdrie in that semi-final, and it's like these past 2 weeks in the 4 games that we've played, he's scored 5. And it's like I've mentioned so many times about like a lack of threat in front of goal this season, and to have Innes playing the way he has been playing, it's just been phenomenal. It's like they say, obviously, it's like they say, don't fall in love with a lone player. I love him. I love him. But it's like, and again, I cannot believe I forgot to mention this about Doogie. About his like, and obviously being in the stadium, I never got to see the interviews and whatnot. But it's like seeing him choke up, talking about like the really tough few months he's had. It's like just want to hug him, man. But I was like, very, very happy for him. Terrific. Dylan Easton, this was his 4th final, and he hadn't won. So, and he hadn't won before. So for him, massive. And it's like the day after was his birthday. So what a birthday present to get your hands on a winner's medal and a trophy. I was like Lewis Stevenson. I think he's now like the 5th player to have won all 3 cup competitions: League Cup, Scottish Cup, and Challenge Cup. So, and it's like trying to think. I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but I think it was one of the Eastern goals. It was one of the Eastern goals where it was the 4th one when because it's like Eastern ran towards the stand with fans in it. But it's like you can see in the background one of the Rovers fans. It's like most people were like bolting it down the stairs or whatnot, and there's one old boy, he like tried going over the stairs and just decked it. He decked it into the advertising barrier.
I have seen that.
But I just very fun. Just a brilliant day out. Just very, very happy for everyone at the club, especially Doogie of the year he's had. And I just what a day. Aiden, anything to add on this? Obviously, Doogie of his former club.
Well, that's a good result for Raith Rovers. Good wee confidence boost after the last wee run in the season. Striker scoring goals, fully confidence. Fans going to be happy in the last few games. But happy for Dougie Emery and Andy Millen, 2 guys that were at Morton for a long time. Went through a lot at the club from a few different things, and it's good to see the both of them back together again and, won their first trophy together. And also, as you both touched on, Dougie Emery, the year that he's had, the last 12 months, it's been tough for him, so it's great to see him getting that trophy, something special for him to start off a new year. But no, good for Raith Rovers.
It definitely is. I should mention. So, but we interesting to see how we build on this, and it's like with the aforementioned voting game come up. Who knows if we've got like a cup hangover or whatever? But I feel like Doogie's the sort of manager to not get too carried away. He's like that. he just seems like that. But aye, the Neil Warnock clip. It's just like enjoy it, but enjoy it by being fucking disciplined. That's what it'll be. So, aye. Hope for just like a continuation of like this past 2 weeks, just towards the end of the season. Um, I will say though, it's like this won't be the only trophy I'll be seeing being lifted, seeing as our game against St Johnstone, the penultimate game, got moved to a Friday night, and they can win the league against us. So who knows? More trophy parades for me
Very tempted to stick the middle finger up again, Callum.
again. But aye, and it'll be interesting to see how the season ends for us. So aye, that is all of the weekend's action done for this podcast. So we'll quickly go over the table. So we have St Johnstone top on 65 points, Partick Thistle second on 60 with a goal difference worst by 17 now. So it's basically a 6 point gap at that point. Arbroath in third on 47. Dunfermline after their win against their 3-0 win against Ayr tonight, which, let's just face it, I don't think there's really much to. Obviously, we don't have the highlights. We'll cover it a bit more in detail next week, but they're now on 46 points with a game in hand. Raith are on 36 points with a game in hand. In fifth, whilst Ayr on 36 points from 32 games, but a minus 7 goal difference. Then it's Queen's Park, who didn't play. They have their game in hand. They're also on 36 points with a minus 10 goal difference. Morton are 8th on 36 points, but minus 11 goal difference. And then it is Airdrie in 9th on 30 points with a game in hand. And then at bottom of the table, Ross County, 28 points from 32 games. So when it comes to the weekend's fixtures, Friday night under the lights makes a return. It is Queen's Park at home to Ross County. Unfortunately, we don't have Enzo on here to tell, but as mentioned, Queen's Park in a bit of a injury crisis, but Ross County are in a quality crisis, if anything. So I'm sure this game will be absolutely fantastic viewing on BBC Scotland. Thoughts on how this game can go?
Yeah, I mean, I think if this was like if this was about 3 months ago, like taking form for both teams, this would be a relegation decider. But obviously Queens Park kind of has picked up form at the right time, and obviously, as you said, they're going through a bit of an injury crisis. But I think they'd be looking to kind of just, albeit with, again, as you said, they're kind of thing with injuries at the moment. Not for the first time this season as well, but I think they would just be looking to kind of win as much games as we can, get as far away from any danger as possible. I think they are fine though. I think they will be okay. But Ross County, I think I would say they need to start winning. I think I've said that about 7 or 8 times at separate points this season. I don't know. I don't know how this one will go. Honestly, I don't even know why it's on a Friday night. To be honest, I think this game is going to stink up the gaff. To be honest.
Aiden, your thoughts on this one?
I think it'll be nothing but a Queen's Park win, to be honest. They've had a good run of form recently. Decent result against Airdrie, good results back to back against Ayr United. I think they're confident enough going into a game like that, So, for me, 3 points for Queen's Park. Ross County, we've seen their quality, as you've seen. So, yeah, 3-0 win for Queen's Park.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Moving on to the Friday games, are at home to Arbroath, the two of the less informed teams going up against each other. Terrible at home. Arbroath just in terrible form in general. That's that's probably going to be a bit of a naff game. Kieran, Partick Thistle at home to Dunfermline. Pretty big one. This one. How are you feeling going into this one?
I mean, they're still unbeaten at home this season, so I'd back is against pretty much MD to get the win at home again at home this season. But obviously can't really downplay Dunfermline's form at all. I think it'll be very tough. They've picked up form at the right time. They'll be looking to secure playoffs. Even then, even more than that, get into third, overtake Arbroath. But it'll be tough, obviously. But I think we just kind of need to, again, just do our stuff. Obviously, play a bit better on Saturday. I play a bit better on Saturday than what we did down in there. And hopefully, we'll come away with 3 points, and hopefully, again, St Johnstone. Hopefully, they drop points. And make it a bit more interesting towards the season. But nonetheless, I think that's our secured second place, so we don't need to worry too much about falling away or whatever. Like we've got that secured, so just look at gaining momentum heading into whatever happens towards the end of the season.
Nah, it's definitely it's a probable preview of the playoff semi-final.
Yeah, pretty much. I think out of this will probably come back to bite me in the arse, mind you. But I think just going with how we've played against both teams, I'd much rather prefer to play against them, Fairmont. Just because we've beaten them twice. Beaten them at Firhill and beaten them at East End Park. Obviously, we drew. If it's Arbroath always this season I've found kind of got a number kind of thing. We've not beaten them yet this season, and we played them away. Second last game of this season, I think it's 25th of April we played them. So, that'll be interesting to see how we go again, how we go up against them. Obviously, it gives us a bit of homework to do before we potentially get into the playoffs and that. But looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good game. Both teams have still got something to kind of fight for, kind of thing. But nonetheless, looking forward to it.
And then, as you mentioned about hoping St Johnstone drop points, they're at home to Airdrie.
5-0 Airdrie.
They're just upping it every week. They're going to win 5-0 against St Johnstone, 6-0 against whoever they got next, 7 and 8. They're going to beat Morton 9-0 on the final day. It's like a reverse of like 10-2 against Aki's a few years ago for Morton. But it's like with St Johnstone Airdrie, St Johnstone are going to win that one. I think that's one we can all agree on. Obviously, Kieran, you'll be hopeful, but no.
It'll be probably the first ever time in my life I'll be going for Airdrie, so you put that in the record
feels
books.
Wrong. It feels wrong. I think it was against either. It's when Dunfermline were playing against Cross County, and I was like celebrating Dunfermline goals. It's like, why am I doing this? But of course, the final game to talk about is, of course, Raith Rovers at home to Greenock Morton. Of course, with this recent uptick in form and it being at Starks Park, I am very confident to put it lightly. Aiden, how are you feeling going into this one?
I think I'm fairly confident as well going into this game. I think we all know how Dougie Emery's going to set up his teams anyway. He's always got them well organised and hard to beat. So a lot of the Morton players will know how he's going to play. Not a lot's changed from going to Raith Rovers to his 4 years at Morton. So I think it's going to, similar to the other games we played against you this season. It's going to be a bit of see how each other moves first. Let the first 20 minutes play out and go for there. But it's even another draw, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a draw. Like you say, it's like see who's going to make the first move. None of us. No one. 0-0 dross like the last one. Capillo. Trying to think. Yeah, I think it's trying to think. The results of this season were 1-0 Raith at Capillo, 1-1 at Starks when Morton got the last minute equaliser. That 0-0 game at Capillo where absolutely fuck all happened. And so
I'll tell you what we can do. We can have Dougie Emery up at the away end for 20 minutes. You can have Ian Murray just in a wee lap on around Starks, and then we'll call it a day.
Both managers are going to be clapped on by the opposing fans. It's going to be weird. Does it feel right? But we will be covering all of those games next week. So of course, join us for then, and bye for now.
Catch you after.